Welcome back to the We Valiant Few Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Raptor.
Crossfire's here.
Slapshot.
Today, we are going to go over, we're on episode 18, we're going to go over Camouflage today as our main topic, and like normal, we'll go through some current events. But first, before we get into that, I just wanted to plug some of our stuff. So we got our website, we got our Instagram, YouTube,
Links will be in the description of the podcast for that. Website's WeValiantFew.com. Instagram at WeValiantFew. YouTube is youtube.WeValiantFew.com. And our Discord is discord.WeValiantFew.com. All those are available too. All those other links are available, of course, on our website, WeValiantFew.com. Easy place.
If you're listening to on YouTube, also be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. So I guess we'll kick it off with current events with Cross.
So this first current event is, as you guys know, is really close to home for me. It's the Coke Be More White thing that's been kind of scandalous this entire week.
Be less white.
Be less white, yeah. Or sorry, be less white. Excuse me. Yeah, Be More White, they'd be canceled forever, right? Yeah, but the Be Less White thing from Coke, I'm kind of upset about this because it's like, I really didn't drink a whole lot of soft drinks, but Coke was the one I drank, and I'm like, and I was like, well, we're not buying Coke anymore.
I'm a mixed drinks kind of guy. I mean, you guys know that I don't drink beer, so like rum and Coke's my usual.
So it looks like you're gonna have to find another one.
Rum
So-
and Pepsi.
You have to get
Who does that? Does anyone actually do that?
It sounds like a terrible idea.
It's Coke and Pepsi are the same thing.
They're most certainly
They're
not the same.
definitely the same.
I'll be honest. I don't think I've actually ever had a Pepsi in my life.
That's interesting.
I don't drink pop ever.
And you probably just aggroed half the audience.
Oh,
Oops.
you said pop too. We're screwed.
Oh,
Oh boy, that.
just cut that out real quick.
No, it's okay.
Yeah, but it just keeps going to this whole appeasement culture thing where these companies are. It's not even just companies anymore. It starts from this whole societal thing that like being white is this great heinous crime that literally you don't have any control over. Like I don't understand. Like people think it's less racist to come up with an idea or to push this type of stuff on their employees. But in reality, it's more racist because those employees can't determine their own skin color because they're born with it, and they get discriminated on because they're white.
Do you want to elaborate like what's going on with Coke? Just like so anyone that is listening that didn't hear about it.
It's part of that. To sum it up, without getting into a whole ton of detail, it's basically they're doing that racial equality training.
Equality training. Like a lot of companies do it. You can chalk it up to equal opportunity, and a lot of that is good stuff. But now you are kind of demonizing a race.
You straight up are. Like again, being white is this huge heinous crime.
Yeah, and you're blaming all of your problems on people of white skin color or just like the color white at this point.
Okay, so what did Coke do?
They
They literally came out with a statement and told their employees to be less white.
That was it.
Yeah.
Now, I honestly have no idea what that's supposed to mean.
Is that like almost word for word? Like
Yeah, that was
word for word.
Be less white.
Be less white. So you can be less
I mean,
white.
they didn't just send an email, be less white. It was probably part of their, like, training. That was, like, one of the titles or headlines or whatever it is. Regardless of what it is, it's still not good.
Oh.
So needless to say, I will not be drinking Coke anymore.
It's a big rip.
That's okay. That's the last like soft drink I was really interested in. So that's okay.
You know what? That's fine. You know, I'll just like go to Walmart and buy the off-brand Coke and drink off-brand Coke with my rum.
It's the idea.
It's the idea. I'll just drink something that's better for you. So it's not all that bad.
Yeah, we'll do that.
The second thing that I wanted to talk about that is just absolutely, completely full of irony was the fact that Biden's reopening the detention centers.
Who built the cages, Joe?
Just gonna say the same thing, yeah. So
We've said that a couple of times before.
Yeah,
already.
yeah.
no, but it's like, yeah, it's racist to do this. Okay, does it anyway. But it's not racist now.
So what are these detention centers?
They're holding centers, like the ones that in particular, they were opening holding centers for children, because there's lots of children that come across the border with people as part of a lot of it's part of the trafficking. They can't verify their parents on the spot, so they have to be put in these holding centers to deal or to wait for them to be processed through immigrations, through customs, all that.
Because they didn't go through the proper means of coming into the country in the first time. And just for clarification, even if you are coming here as like a refugee, there's still a process you have to go through. It's not just I'm just gonna walk in type thing, and it shouldn't be, because people do need screened, regardless of where they're coming from, because we want to ensure the safety of our country. We have borders for a reason.
That's like expecting to go to the airport and just being able to walk straight on the airplane without going through all the proper the screening and having to go through the metal detectors and stuff. It's like literally walk in, sit right on the plane.
Canadians do the exact same thing to us if we go over into Canada.
As they should.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Countries have borders to maintain their sovereignty.
I must say, Crossfire, you come up with the best examples ever.
Well,
gotta give it to you. Like the yin and yang thing from episode 2 ago.
Think about that more. It makes more and more sense the more you think about it. And not just good and evil. Think about it for just all kinds of stuff that there's polar opposites. The more you think about it, the more sense it makes.
That's right.
I know and I don't mean in the what it was that's Chinese. Is that Chinese where that comes from? Yeah. It's there to them. I think it's a religious symbol. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it is. But I don't mean it that way. I mean it is the literal.
Yeah, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, for to have black, you have to have white. I mean that's just the way it is, you know. So. But I mean that's pretty much all I wanted to cover on, just because it's just so ironic that they got over Trump's case about him being this racist, bigot, misogynist because he was putting kids in camps that definitely existed before he was in office, and now everybody's quiet on it. Everybody's quiet on it now that he's doing the same, or now that Biden's doing the same thing. It's just unbelievable.
I mean, like, can these kids that are not just kids, but I mean, are there adults in these? Like detention center?
The one in particular that they reopened was for children, and I saw that the reason they reopened it was because the COVID restrictions decreased this capacity of another one.
Okay.
Because there has to be more space requirements and that nature of stuff, so they had to move the kids from one to the other. What I was.
So what you're telling me is Biden is separating families too.
Oh yeah. And this happened before.
It happened before Trump. It happened with Obama. It happened probably even before that.
I think it was Bush Bush started ICE. So I'm pretty sure it happened with Bush. Is this type of stuff, and it's just been going on because
the first or second Bush.
Second Bush.
Okay.
So there just has to be a way, like you had said, you have to have borders and have to enforce the borders to have a sovereign country. It's all part of that because we didn't really have this refugee problem and this migrant problem until relatively recently. So that's all I want to say about that. I'll pass it on to you there for your one.
All right. So first off, just in a podcast this week, President Obama said, quote, that reparations are justified, and he went into a bit of a explanation as to why he didn't really do anything during his presidency to get reparations, and reparations being basically paying the government paying African American people because their ancestors were slaves in this country, which I mean sounds on a base level without looking at anything else. Sure, maybe it sounds cool.
Yeah, on a base level, to me, it sounds insane. Because especially people that didn't go through
absolutely
like their quote unquote thing caused it. I think it's insane personally.
I'm saying without any context, with the context of none of us alive have been on the receiving end or the giving end of slavery,
at least in our country,
and yeah, in our country.
See, everybody, and this is an unpopular opinion that ticks people off, but it's people are so quick to jump to blame that because they're black or because they're mixed race or whatever, that's the reason why they don't succeed in life. They completely shrug off the fact that that they may live in an area that is a poor area, or they live in an area that has like I'll use an inner city for instance, that the schooling systems are verifiably worse, or the societal structure is verifiably worse. It doesn't matter what color somebody is, or even where their heritage comes from, for that matter, because in this country you can do literally anything. Your family can go from nothing to multimillionaires in a single generation.
Especially
5
nowadays.
years. Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
nowadays with how much access you have to the internet and learn. Like, you don't have to just go to school to learn your stuff. You can use basically the hive mind of knowledge that the internet provides.
If you
It's
know how to
basically you in your car. Like, how do you think you learned everything?
I learned everything I know about modifying cars through YouTube. Nothing
Exactly.
else.
it's like you said, it's a massive repository of information. If you know how to use it properly, then literally the sky's the limit on this stuff. Probably even more than that, because now stuff's in space.
More like the cloud is the limit.
No, nice,
Ha.
nice. But what I'm getting at is, like, they're so quick to jump to blame. Oh yeah, because my great grandfather was a slave. That's why my life's bad. It's like, no, you're wanting to push the blame off and not take responsibility for either or not even really take responsibility.
Well, you have
say
just
there's-
100% control of your life.
Yeah,
you choose your outcome.
I get that some people are dealt poor cards. There's no question about that.
Absolutely.
Like, there's people that are, literally poor and they don't grow up with anything and have nothing. But I'll just use my dad, for instance. When he was younger, he was in such a terrible welfare situation that they got 1 gallon of milk a month, and when they would drink it down to the halfway level, they would fill it back up with water to make more milk, because they literally could not get any more. That's how bad welfare they're at. And he just decided that he was tired of it and went out and he worked for everything he got. No one ever gave him anything at all, except, the ability to go out and do that work, which literally consisted of, your hands and your eyes and stuff being operable, which majority of people have that, but it all takes is hard work. And then, several years later, he has a whole lot to show for it. So that's what I'm getting at, is like, you can start with literally nothing, and you can be in the worst economic situation you can possibly be in, where you literally have to save for like a year to buy like a $70 bicycle. Like, they were poorer than that. And yet he was still able to make it. So people neglect to take the responsibility of their own destiny, but they're so quick to shove it off to
Someone else's fault.
Someone else's fault.
Someone else's fault that I'm failing.
I know that was far-winded for current event, but I feel very strongly about that, because I see a lot of people. It's like, oh yeah, well, I was dealt the poor card because I'm black in life. It's like, what are you even talking about? What does that matter?
Yeah,
You're absolutely right, Crossfire.
Yeah, like, I could care less what, and I've said this before. I could care less what somebody looks like. I care about the quality of character and their determination to do something in life. I don't care if they're determined to be a fry cook for the rest of their life and they go out and they do that successful. They could be.
Yeah,
they don't even have to be a great fry cook. If that's what they want to do and they really truly believe that in their heart, that that's what they want to do, and they go out and do it, they could not be any more successful to me. They're as successful to me as Jeff Bezos. I mean that really. So I know that I feel really strongly about that.
There's a number of people that I have worked with before I was even promoted, because like I would always talk to my coworkers and get to know them a little bit, because that makes the day go by quicker, because you build that personal connection with your coworkers, and it because who wants to go to work every day and just like not talk to anyone? It's just
called
like,
having
wow,
fun.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You want to get to know your coworkers and your peers, and I would get to know like some of these people, and you ask them like, oh, like, are you going to school? Like, is this like your only job? And like, there was definitely a few people that's like, yeah, like I'm the first one going to college in my family, and I'm using this job to pay for it. And like, there were a number of like kids that I would talk to as package handlers, and they would tell me like, this is like great. Like, during the month of December, we would get this huge bonus for working hourly, because obviously the amount of package volumes increased. So like, they like, obviously, like, they were working their butts off at that facility to make ends meet, to be able to afford that education. There's one kid that's going to school to be an engineer. Like, you guys know how much engineers can make. Like, good for him, honestly. Like, I cannot applaud him more, because he told me about his he comes from like a lower income area, so he knows like kids that he went to high school with that were like drug dealers, and like they turned to like being a drug dealer or like looking towards drugs, because like that's what they grew up around.
Easy way out.
It's easy.
Right.
Yeah, it's easy money.
But he's just like, no, like, I want to make an honest living. He told me that word for. He's like, I want to like have a family and kids like one day, and I want to make an honest living for myself. I'm just like, dude, like, I cannot applaud you more for like extracting
people,
yourself from that situation.
Oh, that is absolute textbook admirable.
Exactly.
What more could you ask of somebody?
A lot of people don't think that far either. I would even people that are in my life, I would say, are they're so I would say I guess slow at figuring out what they want to do and then like applying themselves, or maybe they just never apply themselves at all. They just they get a job, they get comfortable, and then they just sit there, and they never reach the dreams that they have, which means they end up unhappy, and because they're not making the money and doing the things that they wanted to do whenever they were a kid, and it kind of all falls apart. I mean, I would consider myself relatively well self-made because I knew I wasn't going to do well in college simply because I was completely tired of school after high school. I didn't want to do it anymore. I thought it was dumb. The only classes I did well in at my senior year of school were the classes that I cared about, which were computer networking and JROTC. And I mean,
You made a career out of that.
That made a career. I went to the
Yeah,
army,
exactly.
and then I do IT work now, and I do well.
I will add that college is dramatically different than high school.
It absolutely is. And honestly, most college is like a scam. Honestly, I will admit it. There are certain places you need to go to college to like get a good degree to actually get that job, but there are most jobs out there you can actually just work for without a degree.
Well, a lot of the degree stuff is literally just gating.
Exactly. Yeah, it's to like make that connection. But
No, like literally, I talked to somebody who was a hiring manager for a big company, and he literally said, "Yeah, we have this automated system that parses through your like resume or whatever you have, or parses through the files you sent, and if it doesn't see the word degree on the resume, it kicks out immediately."
That's so dumb.
Like,
though.
it doesn't even matter if the dude could literally be a rocket scientist.
yeah,
like,
That's
it's
such a bad way to.
like he said that the system literally parses through it.
but there are jobs like, for example, probably Tesla gets like 500 applicants. Obviously, the hiring manager is not going to look through 500 applications.
This was a bigger company, yeah.
Right,
so-
they're going to use these applications
Sorting
to filter through and look for vibe words.
I guarantee you, if they actually sat down and instead of had some automated system go through and just kick people out and actually sat there and looked at the applications, that they would have much better employees.
I mean,
Especially-
I would account for that because I don't have degree written in my resume, and I do very well at my job.
Well, I mean, it's like again, it's like that. That's how companies are. They're like, yeah, we'll get it on this. It's like because this person needs to have a degree. I'm like, dude, some of the most successful people I know literally do not have degrees. Like the degree I went for, I don't even use.
Not yet, at least.
No, I mean, like, I'm not gonna be using it because like the various things that I work on is just are totally unrelated to it. I don't think it was a bad decision on my part because you make connections and stuff through there, but just because it's people see that, like, I guess I don't know, because people look at it and like, oh well, we see you have aptitude, you know.
Or you spent 4 years you stuck with something for 4 years. I've heard that argument for a degree, but I mean,
That's a consolation prize,
Yeah,
if
you
anything.
can apply that to the same.
Being serious, you know.
But okay, so to reel it back to the whole detention center thing, though. But these kids growing up in broken homes, essentially, like they're being split from their families.
Yes.
So, like, Raptor, would you?
Oh, I mean, to tie it completely back, we're getting back to the whole reparations thing.
Okay, right.
And basically, they're trying to justify paying people that have never experienced slavery from the government, which I just think is dumb and wrong, and it doesn't solve the problem.
No,
if
that's
there
the
is a
big
race
thing.
problem, it doesn't solve it.
It's really sad because I think some people really think it does. You know, I think it's like, oh, because if we paid these people,
Everyone
they're
loves
going to
free
shut
money.
up. Of
They're
course.
like, yeah, give us reparations, give us free money, sure. And then you give them free money, and then it doesn't change anything. If there are there are racists, but that's not going to make people. That's not going to make them go away, the same way that paying them is not going to make them shut up.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, it's really sad because people think that that's gonna do it, you know.
Yeah.
That actually, let me see here. Money. I want to bring up a topic about. Did you see Tim Pool's video about the money increase?
No.
What?
Let me see if I can find it here. So, like the total amount of money created in 2020. See if I can find the graph.
So we're printing money, which devalues the currency.
It's this right here. Except that's actually an under exaggeration. So like, whatever. Basically, what this is saying is like, like I said, this scale is totally off. What it was like between up until like 2000 or the beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic, the entirety of U.S. notes printed was like $2 trillion. Like from the beginning of it is like $2 trillion. Oh, not printed, excuse me. The notes in circulation. It was like $2 trillion worth of money in circulation at the beginning of 2020. What do you think it is right now?
Probably a lot more than that.
Just take a
10 trillion.
I mean, without looking at any kind of graph, I'm gonna guess 15.
Almost 20.
That's
Like
insane.
$18.1 trillion. So
you want some inflation, buddy?
So we have literally in the last year, so what would that be, like 80%, something like that? 80% of all money has been printed in the U.S. So whatever that fraction ends up being, from like 2 or 3 or 4, whatever it was, trillion, up to 18 trillion. So you're saying about reparations, they're like, oh, just pay people. It's like, the Federal Reserve doesn't actually pull money out of nowhere and just pay you. It just invents money on you press a zero and it invents money. You add extra zeros into what you have there, and it devalues the currency.
Yeah, because it's not backed by anything. There's no gold backing. Not anymore.
No, the United States dollar is backed by itself, by people's belief in the United States dollar.
Yeah.
So they just take advantage of that, and bad happens.
Why did we just decide that, this piece of paper with some green on it and some dead people on it? I'll trade that for a car.
I know the answer to that, but because we can get long-winded with that, I'm not going to get into it. It basically just boils down to, extremely simply, that people agreed that there was a medium that would not be perishable, that they could exchange for goods and services. That way you knew that this would be worth something, and somebody else would do it. And there's also the added advantage that money is divisible.
Yeah.
Like, say, like, oh, yeah,
I can't cut this car in half.
I can't cut a gold bar in half pretty easily.
You can.
Oh, I mean, you can.
But it was more so invented for, like, livestock. Like, oh, yeah, well, I have 40 bushels of corn. Oh, well, I have a cow. It's like, well, this is only worth like half a cow. You can't cut the cow in half.
Sure you can.
You can, but it does. But
it's not going to serve the purpose. Trading is less efficient than using currency for trade.
The currency is just an intermediate. Yeah. But moving on to our next topic.
I had actually another topic. I think it happened earlier last week, or late last week, early this week. But Biden put out a message to the House saying, basically telling them it's time to start pushing gun control.
Oh yeah.
Which is big no. So I'm just gonna go out and say it now. If anything crazy gets passed or anything at all, I'm of the mindset that we've already given up enough ground. Therefore, we give up no more ground on the Second Amendment, which is a human right. By definition, it's in the Bill of Rights. It's not just an amendment. It's in the Bill of Rights.
So if they make basically like your regular handguns illegal, does that mean that suddenly you can have like homemade belt-fed machine guns since those are equally as illegal?
Yeah, I mean that's the thing,
and that's not my mentality. I've seen people literally do that. Where it's like, well, I guess if
I'm already committing a felony here, so why not go off the freaking rails?
Is that a honey badger you just pulled out? You bet it is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and that's the thing. So I will advocate for non-compliance.
Well, I think everybody else would too, because it becomes a point, and it's not just with gun control. It's with literally every law, where laws get so ridiculous that people don't follow them. And I think that's definitely lost its touch. People think that they can. Well, now the Congress makes a law to subjugate people. It's not
to give them more freedom.
That's how laws were originally designed. Is the law would help the people, like an anti-monopoly law or something. It helps the people, and there are some laws I very firmly believe that we should have because it protects everybody else. Like something simple like a speed limit.
Yeah.
Because it protects everybody else on the road. I mean, that's just a really rudimentary example.
Yeah, no, then it makes sense too.
But stuff like that. But like you said, like gun control, like basically banning all this stuff, and the bill that there's that bill, or him saying that, and there's like I'll use like HR 127 as the example. It's like, most of the stuff they outlined in there, A, has nothing to do with like mass shootings, and B, it's the stuff that people protect their lives with.
Colion Noir did a very good video on
that was a great
just
video.
Completely destroying this argument. He had a comment basically, and she was bringing up all these arguments, and he like line by line dissected it and killed it completely apart. Like just some of the quotes were talking about how handguns are the thing that cause most mass shootings, but handguns are not the things that are trying to be regulated. It's rifles, which have very little. I mean, we've talked about this in the Second Amendment podcast, so we don't really need to go super in detail. But yeah,
they want to ban assault-style rifles, but
what is
like
it? What
said,
it is an assault weapon? We need to stop using the term assault.
The assault
weapon.
rifle 15.
It's not. It's not that. Weapons, regardless of them, are used as they are tools. They serve a purpose. And in some instances, those purposes are assault, if we are in the military or something like that. Most purposes, because the vast majority of the consumer market for firearms is not military, it is civilians. People, like, if you just, we'll throw a state in there, Pennsylvania, for instance, if you rack up all the hunters in Pennsylvania, it's the third largest army in the world. Just Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's kind of cool. I didn't know that.
What?
Yeah.
Really? I didn't know that either.
Well,
just hunters in Pennsylvania. Yeah, that's insane. And you want to say, so now you want to also enforce it. So you're going to pass these laws, and then you're going to force law enforcement to uphold these laws. I honestly hope that law enforcement don't uphold these laws.
I feel like most law enforcement would not.
I mean, that's the idea that I want, but I also don't want to go into that thinking naive.
Neither do I. But like the thing that like kind of has me thinking that way, at least, is because I mean, law enforcement obviously have handguns themselves.
Well, they're going to be allowed to carry them.
Oh, right. But I feel like if they, I mean,
and law enforcement already have full autos and stuff like that. They get that stuff.
Right. I understand that they get that, but it's the fact that they use it and they understand why they have it is for protection.
I mean, I understand.
Saving lives.
What's the difference, though? I understand why I have a firearm.
No, it's the same thing. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I hope that that's how they think. I can't rely on it, though.
I personally know that we're better with firearms than some police. I personally know police that are worse with firearms than we are. And I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of police are fuds.
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
maybe.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it be. But like what you were saying, just to elaborate on it, just mildly, again, it's a tool. There's nothing there other than a tool. If somebody is not able to buy a weapon to go, take out or to go out and do their terrible thing, like say it is, it's attacking a school, and they're convinced to do that. They're not gonna, and they can't get a gun. Well, they'll fill the back of their truck up with fertilizer and wreck it into it. I mean, like the people are malicious and they're insane.
Look in Britain.
Yeah, I mean,
trucks. They don't have guns. They can't have knives anymore. So what do they use? I mean, honestly, I feel like a truck is much more deadlier than a knife, but they don't think. Oh, they're like, knives will kill people.
We gotta ban cars now.
That's the art.
Remember, cars do kill a lot more people per month
than firearms.
Remember, over 10 times more people are killed by cars in the United States every year over 10 times as many people each month are killed by cars as there are rifles all year long.
Wow. And you know what's going to be killing us even more? These gas prices. Shout out Joe Biden, you're a real one.
Yeah.
No, it's just because it's cold, guys. It's not because we closed down natural gas pipelines. No.
You look, and it's like, it's getting warmer. Oh, look, the prices are going up again.
Rippy dip.
Yeah, but we'll move on to the
next topic.
Yeah, so I wanted to really bring this one up again because we talked about it after the show last week. It's like, oh god damn it, we forgot to mention this. Rush Limbaugh passed away last week. So
actual rip.
I mean, he brought AM radio back from the dead whenever he first showed up onto the scene. And that, I mean, Rush Limbaugh, I'm fairly certain, is the reason we can sit here and have podcasts like this.
Yeah, he basically was one of. I mean, I don't know if I'd say him directly, but he definitely was instrumental in creating the whole concept of like this of what we're doing right now. You know what I mean? So we owe. I would say that we owe it to him for establishing that that history to doing this what we're doing right now.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really important to mention that.
Another little news article that I wanted to bring up. We've already seen a few things on this, but I wanted to bring it more to light to some of our listeners. COVID vaccines, there's some side effects to those. A lot more side effects than people might think. So I personally know quite a few people in my personal network that have gotten the vaccine, and they got sick.
Yep, I do as well. Like pretty violently sick.
Yeah. So I mean, standard. It's like fever, chills, headaches. But in some extreme cases, more so of like older generations, they're like having like heart palpitations, in some cases strokes. And if you Google like COVID side effects, there are multiple articles, not like right or left wing media sources, like all media sources here, like saying there are some major side effects to
I mean,
this
all
vaccine.
vaccines have side effects.
Of course.
That's not gonna lie, but
Of course.
You're reading the side effects. It's like may induce vomiting, nausea, diarrhea, upset stomach, death.
if the cure is worse than the problem, is it really worth getting the cure?
My point is though, is like, I mean, my parents aren't like, anti-vax, like don't vaccinate your kids. Type
No, I'm not
parents.
anti-vax at all.
Of course.
No, neither
so
am I.
I totally 100% like agree. You should have your kids vaccinated. It's smart to do that.
Vaccinated that have been tested
Yeah,
Exactly.
for a very, very
that's-
long
that's
time.
my-
The
catch of it,
vaccinated. Please tell me, have you guys ever gotten sick from a vaccine you got when you were a kid?
Yes,
Really?
yes, I did.
Can't
Which
recall.
one? Do you recall?
I don't recall off the top of my head, but I mean, you know how vaccines work.
Yeah, they
so you
inject
get a
part of the
microdose.
virus in you.
Yeah,
It's for your
so
body to fight it off.
Yeah, so you can get sick over it.
Of course, and that is the risk.
Yeah, I mean, and that's not uncommon.
Of course not.
They're also like programmed to die, aren't they?
They're dead. Like as far as I know, well, of course it depends on the type of vaccine, but as far as I knew, it was always like a dead variant of that was still like the cell, so
Yeah.
that way your immune system could, like, they have memory cells,
Right.
so they can know what that looks like and basically store it, so that way if you ever encounter the active version, they already know how to defeat it.
Exactly.
But since it's dead, it won't cause any problems.
Hey, self-defense.
Oh man, how about
Man.
All right, stop right there before you jump down another wormhole.
Oh,
But my point, what were you gonna say?
that? I was gonna say that the vaccine's 94% effective, right?
For the COVID? For
Yeah.
COVID? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the number, 94% effective. That sounds pretty good. Your immune system, 99.6.
Hey.
That whisper is gonna be like
I'm
some
I know,
weird ASMR
quite honestly,
type stuff.
because
Yeah.
I don't buy into the COVID hype, the scare, all of that.
None of us do. We've kind of established that.
I would very much I've been trying to get it at this point for a very long time. People around me have
me
gotten
too.
it. A lot of people around me have gotten it, but I'm just still sitting here like, where's it at?
The
trying to get it.
point I wanted to make though was like the vaccines that we've gotten are tried and true, and as far as I'm concerned, I never had any side effects from any of the vaccines I've had. But there are a lot of people getting this vaccine that I personally know, and a lot of them have actually like gotten sick.
Yeah, even like the other vaccine that I had that I got sick over, that doesn't make me anti-vax. I just like, oh well, that's a known side effect from it, But like you said, Raptor, it's like the whole concept of this, bum rush vaccine that went through. It's like rush B, and you get it out, that should take 10, 15 years, and it's done in like 9 months. I don't like that because like you don't see the long-term side effects. It's like, oh, after a year everything's good. A year and 1 day it's like, oh my god, he grew another arm.
Yeah, and
Oh,
another
no.
thing. So I don't know
This
if
is
you.
radiation.
How often do you guys listen to like just the radio in your car?
Maybe once a month, if I'm being honest.
I'll be honest. Most of the time I drive I have nothing on because I'm
very-
thinking.
Well, regardless,
Seriously.
so I've been forced to listen to the radio recently, and a lot of time you get like there's a lot of ads on the radio for like they have this country dude saying like, why don't you just wear a mask? And it's just like, so are you like trying to appease to the non-mask wearing people with the voice of someone that sounds like he
country
owns
folk.
a cowboy?
Owns a cowboy?
Whatever. You know what I mean.
I was successful once, and
And
then they
then-
had to use a mask. But
They-
you can use a mask too, and if you're good, you double mask.
There's another
Oh,
ad.
no.
Let's hear this.
There's another ad from Dr. Fauci, and he's basically saying, 'cause it's rather short, talking about like frequently asked questions about the vaccine, and one of them is how were they able to to figure to get it out so quickly, and can we trust it? And his answer is basically, through the power of science, we have discovered the vaccine. And I'm just like, okay, so you're telling me that the power of science couldn't figure out a vaccine for something else a year ago, but now this year we can figure out a vaccine in 9 months for something that we literally just saw? It's
I think you're not believing in the science.
Wait, hang on. What about cancer? Do we not get into that?
Cancer is a different. It's not a.
It's not a virus.
No.
You don't understand. If you question the almighty Fauci, that is heresy.
But I mean, we're using science to figure out the cure for cancer, right? We've only been using science to figure out the cure for cancer
No,
for how many years?
We just started using science.
They probably have Bill Nye on their team.
We just started using science. It's a new thing.
Well, you know what's even worse about it is that their science is different from, quote unquote, the science is not science.
It's not.
It's like you have to follow the science. It's like,
that's a rather general term.
It's like, did you buy the Amazon Basics variant of the actual science? I think that's
science is a big. It's like saying Ethernet.
Oh goodness! Oh goodness!
All right.
Or I need car parts.
Are we good? Are we good on this topic? Are we good?
I think we're.
We beat it to death.
Yeah,
we beat COVID.
It's
to
broken.
Death. All right.
It's like, okay.
The next one, Crossfire. Can you actually open up the definitions for those, because we need to read those off?
Okay. Well, you can do the intro while I'm opening this.
So this topic is pretty up there with Coca-Cola. I'd
Pretty
say.
great.
So in New York, there was a guy by the name of, oh gosh, can you read that? Because I can't. It's at the top and on the diagram. No, on the diagram by, what's it say underneath identities?
Let me go ahead and open this.
Set his desktop background. Yes.
No, don't do that.
Where do you open?
But okay,
save
so
image as.
View image. There we go.
Anyways, so it was this guy by the name of Barnor Hess. And again, I got this from Ben Shapiro. This is where I first heard of this. There are schools in New York, public schools, that are having families educate on the 8 white identities.
I wonder where we fit in
So
on this.
there's a scale.
Probably white trader.
So there's so on the far side of it, like the most extreme side, you have white supremacists. The 7th highest one is white voyeurism. Then on the 6th, you have white privilege. 5th, you have white, what's that say?
Benefit.
White benefits. 4th, you have white
Confessional.
Thank you. 3rd, you have white critical. 2nd, you have white
Traitor.
And then the 1st, you have white abolitionist. So,
Abolish white people.
So okay, no, this is a real thing. If you've not
God.
heard of this, this is a real thing. And the quote to explain the 8 white identities. There is a regime of whiteness, and there are action-oriented white identities. People who identify with whiteness are one of these. It's about time we build an ethnograph, or how do you say that? Ethnography of whiteness, since white people have been the ones writing about and governing others. So
My IQ can't handle this type of
So
thing.
to explain, there is a definition.
This is incredibly racist. I just want to point that out.
Oh yeah, no, like absolutely. This is insanely racist. There are definitions for.
Oh, look, this guy right here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, for those of you that do not know who Barnor Hess is, he is an African American, and so it wasn't like a white abolitionist that wrote this about white people.
I'm still trying to find out what a white abolitionist is.
There,
It's someone who wants to
If you-
abolish
I know what
white
it
people.
actually is.
Crossfire. If you scroll down in the article, there should be a definitions of each one, I believe, or
This,
oh wait, no, scroll down. That's it.
this here.
The Twitter post. Click on the Twitter post for it.
Oh, copy.
No, we're
fucking
opening
Twitter.
Twitter.
I'm sorry,
Oh,
but this
it's
is
the
where the
rabbit
actual definitions are. And if you want to just click
hole.
that,
Oh, here we go.
Okay, here
we're
we
gonna
go.
read these off one by one because we actually need to go through this for anyone who has not heard
no.
about this yet.
Oh no.
So
no,
we're gonna start with
no.
white supremacist. As a white supremacist, clearly marked white society that preserves names and values of white superiority. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, that white supremacists have been around for ages. Anyone who's extremely racist.
Yeah, the less than 1% of them that actually exist, but apparently there's a massive amounts of them that would just yet to be seen.
Yeah, I guess so.
They're hiding in the bushes.
The second one is white voyeurism. Wouldn't challenge a white supremacist. Desires non-whiteness because it's interesting, pleasurable, seeks to control the consumption and appropriation of non-whiteness. Fascination with culture. Examples: consuming black culture without the burden of blackness.
What? Okay, so now here's my question, like an honest question: is that would that consist of like enjoying barbecue? Because like barbecue is a black
it's southern, isn't it?
It's southern.
hip hop music.
Yeah, or hip. Yeah, that's a better example. Like that's come out of that type of culture. I mean, like again, I'm not being racist, but there is black culture.
Yeah, absolutely, and there's no problem with that. Nor is there a problem with white culture
or Asian culture.
It's just culture.
It's just
exactly.
culture.
Yeah,
okay. And saying you are somehow evil because you enjoy another culture that you don't have.
What finds it interesting.
That's what he's painting it as. It seems.
Well, it's on the red scale of the freaking thing.
It even says
right.
it's like it's because because it's interesting. It's like you're trying to educate yourself on it. I mean, you're doing what you should be doing.
Let's
confused here.
Yeah, let's continue down this list here. White privilege may critique supremacy, but a deep investment in questions of fairness/equality under the normalization of whiteness and the white rule, sworn goal of diversity.
They're basically just trying to take away from the fact that most people, I would say 99.9% of people want diversity, want like the idea of a multicultural. Multicultural. Like, so you're saying that's white privilege because you push that?
I don't get it.
My unpopular opinion is I think the whole concept of doing all this stuff, like going out of your way to make sure something is to going out of your way to make sure something is diverse is in itself racist.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's just dumb.
Oh,
because
this department has five white guys. We got to hire a black guy. It's like it
Why?
doesn't matter.
No, you should hire the guy that is qualified.
Yeah, matter.
And will best fit based upon his personality during his interview.
Person that is most skilled for the job. I mean, and it's like, oh well, it's like we need to have a large portion of like colored people. It's like they don't make up half the population. It shouldn't be half and half. That's just. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what the color of anyone is. It literally does not.
And anybody who thinks that it matters that I have this many black people, I have this many white people, I have this many.
It's racist.
Like, it is racist.
That is what racism is.
Because they're literally defining it. It's like, oh yeah, I have to have this many people. It's like because you're making it a race thing. It's like that is racist.
Moving on.
Yeah.
We have next in line white benefit. Sympathetic to a set of issues, but only privately. Won't speak/act in solidarity publicly because benefiting through whiteness in public, in quotes or in parentheses, some people of color are in this category as well.
I'm happy that you knew what that was referring to there.
I was like point of contact.
POC, people of color. I read a lot about this because I was like very blown away by it. We'll keep
so basically, it's not enough to be sympathetic.
No,
you have to be actively. You have to be anti-racist.
Exactly. All right. Next, white confessional. Some exposure of whiteness takes place, but as a way of being accountable to people of color after. Seek validation from people of color. So
am I being not white enough?
Am I doing a good job? Literally the first time I read that, I started laughing out loud, and I like thought in my head, I'm like, do I ask my black neighbor if I'm doing this right, or like, what do I do?
This is insanity.
This is
beyond insanity. This is
like Mark's level of stupidity.
To our listeners, I understand we're like taking a long time to get through this one, but like this is like important because people in like there are public schools in New York that are actually like sending these home in letters to the parents to like identify themselves as where they are in this.
Where do you fall
into how to correct it? I'm serious. This is a thing.
I can't
this
imagine
is actually
the teacher there. It's like, oh yeah, this is gonna help. It's like, no, you're making it worse. It's like, let's put the fire out with more gasoline.
Moving on. white critical. Take on board critiques of whiteness and invest in exposing / marking the white regime.
So you're saying cancel culture?
Refuses to be complicit with the regime. Whiteness speaking back to whiteness.
What is
Cancel culture.
White traitor. This is number 7. Actively refuses complicity. Names what's going on. Intention is to subvert white authority and tell the truth at whatever cost. Need them to dismantle institutions. So basically,
BLM rider.
And then white abolitionist, the last one. And this is
white people.
This is on the green scale of this white identity.
Yeah, it's
chart.
like red to green.
Yeah, red to green. Red was white supremacist, and green is the farthest, white abolitionist. This is the last one. Changing institutions, dismantling whiteness, and not allowing whiteness to reassert itself.
Black Hitler.
Or reassert itself.
Black Hitler. Not even. It's just. This is literally the
extreme.
exact same thing as the Jews in the Holocaust. Exact same thing.
The Jews in the Holocaust being way more extreme as of right now.
Well, I mean, because
like,
it's already happened, and
right,
it's
That
been
has-
through
that
the
has-
scale.
That has to start somewhere. That's
Yeah.
the,
Right.
it does. You don't just overnight be like, yeah, that
to the
race is
camps.
bad. It's like, no, that doesn't happen overnight.
Oh yeah, I know.
Starting
It
point
all
in
happened in moderation because Hitler was like, like how cool would it be to like have this Jewish community, right? And you can all live together in the same neighborhoods.
Would it be?
Oh,
And then she's like, oh yeah, this might be cool. And it's like, oh, actually, hey, let's give you all a star that has this number to identify you as. Oh yeah,
sure.
okay.
It's not that. It's
That's
not that big
bad.
of a deal.
that-
Not that. No.
Hey guys, how about we all go to have fun on a summer camp trip, right?
oh no.
And then
We'll take a nice
yeah,
train
it's-
ride, and we'll have
It's a
bunk
slippery
beds and live
slope.
together.
It's not just a slippery slope. It's literally the steps on how to. You're isolating a portion of the population, and then you are literally trying to take away their voice, take away their rights, take away all of that. And the only thing that we talk about or that we want is we want everyone in the United States, regardless of color, creed, sexual orientation, anything, to know and have the rights that the founders laid out for them.
Yeah, literally, your color, your race, your religion, whatever you are, we should all have the equal rights that we deserve to have while living in this country.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, it doesn't get any more clear than that. I mean, it didn't even goes out of the way to say that that doesn't matter.
And roughly 45 minutes later, after all of those current events, that long tangent of current events, I think we can bring it to a point that we all, as a people, need to wake up. Wake
Yeah.
up!
Especially like if you're sitting there and you're like, oh yeah, the white identities, and especially if you're white, and you're sitting there like, oh yeah, the white identities, I don't really got to worry about that. No, you have to worry about that, especially if you have kids that are in school, because I mean, again, New York is an extreme example because they're extreme in everything.
Yeah.
But this
You're
is
basically
starting.
you're teaching people that some people are less than others, and I thought we were done with that a very long time ago, but apparently it's coming back with a pop culture phenomenon.
Hey, don't worry, guys. Since we're white, our grandchildren will get reparations for this.
Oh my God.
I sure
My
hope
great
not.
grandchildren will get free money for this.
Seriously, though, like again, it's just
It's
bewildering.
just
It is.
time to pay attention. It's time to get active in your communities, locally or whatnot, and just try to start speaking out against this kind of stuff and doing things that can prepare you to deal with it later on.
And when Raptor, I'm sure when you say speak out, not be like a town crier with a bell and stand in front of your courthouse, but we mean like,
don't be afraid to talk about
Yeah.
stuff like this.
Exactly.
At the bare minimum, because I know some people can't talk about it because of their area. Like I know people that are, that are right leaning in the middle of a blue sea and they can't talk about it. Like, at least be aware of this. At the minimum, be aware that this is happening. Because I mean, that's the first step. Because a lot of people have no idea. It's like, it's been blissful, la da 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 da. It's like, oh, what do you mean? The whole country's gone.
Don't make me bring out the boomer metaphor. Just go to work and I get my sports ball. But
cracked open a cold one with the boys.
So
We can get a sports ball for the studio. I don't know what that is, but we're gonna get one.
in our quest to become more prepared, today we would like to inform you a bit about camouflage. So first, before we get into what camouflage really is, we will talk about the history of camouflage and how it has been used throughout the area. So at least in the since the advent of firearms, pre World War One, let's look at the American Revolution. What were the uniforms like for British soldiers and American soldiers during the American Revolution?
Giant red targets.
Basically, and
Yeah,
giant blue targets.
They were very ceremonial, I would say, very bright colors, stuff that you could like almost disseminate teams. Like, oh, the red team's over there,
Red
and they're all
versus
lining
blue.
up, and
Red
we got the
versus
blue
blue.
team over here.
Oh no, there's no question. You straight up legitly could do
Yeah,
that.
and it wasn't camouflage. Would not what the point I'm trying to make is camouflage was not used, or not used very much, because
thought of it.
warfare was fought very differently back then.
I'd say like a good example when camouflage was used then was be like by the natives. 'Cause
Yeah.
they would do like
Yeah.
they would
Okay.
paint themselves
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's more accurate for that time period. Again, pre World War One. But like you said, not any modern army. No, like,
Because fighting in guerrilla warfare tactics or utilizing stealth to fight wasn't honorable, or wasn't like, because back then it was like a gentleman's war, or how they would describe it, where the generals would meet at the front of the line and they would say surrender, and then the other side would say you surrender.
No, you.
And then they're just like, oh, I guess we're fighting now. And so they run into the back and they rally their troops, and then each of them take turns shooting at each other like a freaking Pokemon battle.
and then the cannon of grape shot goes off.
But it just wasn't used, and maybe back then it was a good I mean, I honestly don't think this is a very effective means of waging war, but nonetheless, that is how it was used. And I think that whole idea was was brought up with the idea of how medieval fights happened, because everyone was super close together. They had their shields, they had their swords, and like combat was close and brutal and stuff like that. And I think it just kind of carried over.
You mean this gun can hit this guy way over there?
Yeah.
No, not really. But
I mean, it's long enough that you're not gonna shoot the person in front of you.
if you're lucky, yeah. But
Moving on.
So back then, they had these very colorful uniforms, stuff like that. Camouflage was not very much used. It wasn't really until World War One where we saw a more departure in this. I mean, I would say maybe we can look at the Civil War. They weren't really much using bright colors, but
they were still
still
normal
color,
yeah, like gray and blue.
gray and blue.
Nothing natural.
Not like not until World War One where we see greens and tans and khakis being used in the areas in which they are fighting. So what and then all the way up until now, we're developing a new camouflage that will help you hide better, is like $1 billion investment, at least for militaries and stuff like that. So what advantages do camouflages bring to people? One of them, I would say, first and foremost, is stealth. If you have someone that is against a white background and they're wearing a white shirt or a full white bodysuit, and someone is wearing a full blue bodysuit, who are you gonna see?
Yeah, it just boils down to contrast.
Yeah.
Because the contrast is what you notice with your, like, that's how the human eye works. If there's something that's close enough and you're glancing at it, you're not going to pay enough attention to it, just because that's how your survival instinct works. Like stealth by low contrast.
Yeah, stealth by it's harder to draw attention to yourself. Attention, whether that be moving through the woods or walking around on the street or whatever it is. The second point that I wanted to bring up was it's an equalizer. It balances unequal fights, because back in the day, whenever we were talking about these massive like front wars where we got blue and red on one side and the other, and they're walking at each other and stuff, most of the time in those fights, the team with more people won those fights.
Yeah, just because of the sheer magnitude of numbers.
And because it was basically brute force fighting. There's no brain. I mean, I'm sure there was brain involved. There was tactics employed back then, but
crude tactics.
There was not small unit level tactics rather than these large strategic tactics. And you can even look at some countries nowadays, or why some countries did better in World War II than others. For instance, Germany Germany employed small unit tactics against the British and the French and the Russians during the early war. And they did very well, especially against the Russians, because the Germans utilized a command structure that allowed like company level leaders to basically make their own decisions, whereas the Russians had a much like higher centralized point where the decisions had to be made. That same officer on the Russian side and the German side could make more decisions than the Russian side could.
It's like agile project management. It's a similar thing.
Yeah.
So the smaller group could move with more autonomy. It makes them more efficient. I mean, that's just it.
And so camouflage goes into a big point of that, because now you can have a group of 5 to 10 guys that are well hidden, well camouflaged, well set up, fight off hordes upon hordes upon hordes of enemies. And I mean, you can, if you have listened to any of like Jocko's SOG Chronicle podcast, and just literally hearing about how like 9 SOG guys fought off battalions, brigades of NVA soldiers just by laying on the ground and being camouflaged, or it being dark, or whatever it may be. It's a massive force multiplier for smaller units, and it makes it much harder for larger units to deal with. And it gives you the ability to pick your fights, because you're stealthy, because maybe you're a smaller group. You can choose what fights you want to take. Like maybe there's a massive group of people walking by you and you're laying in the bush or whatever it is. You don't have to engage those people. You can let them pass, or you can wait until you have a more advantageous position, or like however it is for you to take those fights.
Yeah, that would be better. Or like you said, situationally dependent, and that's a huge advantage.
Yeah. So there's tons of different kinds of camos, obviously, and they're all very different. All different like pattern. Like you got digital patterns, you've got like splotchy patterns, you've got like a mix of both. You've got flat, like just solid colors, and it all comes down to
Your environment.
Your environment.
Yep, colors your environment. Seasonal. Like
Yeah,
so if you
seasonal,
have
definitely.
so especially if you have a place that has more seasons, if you have like a summer dress, it's not going to work in the winter, and vice versa, or like even fall or spring. They're all different. So you have that, the vegetation in the area, the different like animals and wildlife and all that all come into effect to determine what the color palette is, and then again like vegetation and its surrounding stuff helps determine the pattern.
So there's that, but there's also, so since the advent of civilization, a new biome, if you would say, in the world that isn't tundra or plains or woods or whatever it is, has come into existence, and I would say that is an urban biome.
Society.
Yeah. So, how do you camouflage in that? I would definitely not say that wearing some like a lot of urban camos on the internet are considered like they're black and white and all splotchy, and or just straight like full black uniform or whatever. Like, how are you blending in the city?
They're not.
It's going off just the color palette, but I think like if you're blending in, you look at I'd say like again in the city, if it's a city or like suburbs or whatever, look at the quality of life there, see what type of people are there, try to mimic their wardrobes, mimic their like how cleaned up they are and stuff like that. If you have a vehicle, use a similar type of vehicle that's going to be in like if you're say if you're going through the hood, you don't drive like a Rolls Royce through it.
Yeah.
So you just be absolutely as normal as possible.
As gray. I mean, the term a lot of people use is gray man, or just like blend into the back. Like you're blending into the crowd.
Act like you're supposed to be there.
Yeah. Don't. We talked a lot about this in mindset too. Like camouflage can include your mannerisms, can include your like you just looking at like everyone on the subways looking at their phone. Maybe you should look at your phone too, but like you're also paying attention. Like I actually had to employ this tactic recently. I was waiting to get my hair cut, and I was just kind of sitting there, and I was looking. I had my phone up because I mean everyone's sitting waiting to get a haircut most of the time. They're looking at their phone, so I'm just looking at my phone, but I'm also like peripherals, looking around, paying attention to my surroundings, and I see this dude he's like moving his hand a little weird. So I look up, and it looked like he was taking a picture of me. Now I didn't say anything to him, and maybe he wasn't, but I would have maybe he did take a picture of me, and now I wouldn't be aware at all that someone just randomly took a picture of me.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
It is super weird. I mean, the guy didn't really look weird, and he like we made eye contact whenever I like caught him doing it.
Did he wink?
No, he didn't. No, he definitely didn't wink.
Okay,
But
so it's less weird.
Yeah, it was. I would if I was just involved in my phone like I would say a lot of our friends are. I would have never noticed that, and it would never. I guess ignorance is bliss. It would never bother me again. But
Plays poker. Your turn just literally goes past.
and it's just like, oh, okay.
Bluffs with 27 kings.
Yep. He won. What do you mean? Oh, okay. And then he just passes him the chips.
Again, just pay attention, please.
Yes. Just pay attention to your surroundings. Act as if you are meant to be there. Like, I mean, I carry every day, and most people would not know it.
Yeah, you never. That's how I am with it. I never make an effort to, show it's
I'm not
there or
wearing
anything.
like tactical. I'm wearing camo pants out on the daily basis or whatever. Like, I
Yeah.
might wear fashionable camo pants because camo is sometimes in style, but not like
Not over
not ACs
military
or,
pants.
Yeah,
right.
military pants or whatever. I'm wearing something that's like comfortable for the weather. I'm not wearing anything crazy. Jeans.
Show up to work in a full plate
Yeah.
carrier. It's like, this is my normal dress. It's like,
Yeah.
no, it's not.
You are drawing attention to yourself. You are not very camouflaged. What do you mean? There's a pattern on my.
I'm wearing a piece of drywall around. You can't see me. But I think that
I
leads.
have an apartment sign on my chest.
Oh, yeah. I think that leads into our about our personal experiences with camouflage. And the one what is the one I'm thinking of that
Let me guess.
The sheet.
yes.
Yes.
Oh my
Do you remember the
God.
bed sheet? So it was snowing the one time, and I had just a super plain white bed sheet, and I just wrapped myself in it, and you couldn't even tell. Gone. You just disappeared into the ether.
I remember that night actually specifically, and it was a heavy snowfall night, and after a few minutes of you just laying down in there, it was
Gone.
completely gone because now you've even got the texture of the snow on top of the sheet.
Well, especially like you're looking for it, and it's just gone.
Yeah.
Because it was the same white. Well, that one wasn't exactly the same. It was close enough. To the white of the snow.
Close enough to just cause enough of a contrast. For your human eye to not pick it up.
That's seriously what it boils down to. It's just contrast. And then again with the texture on it, that helps blend it into the background. So you sit down, you're like, oh wow, there's a lump there in the ground.
What is this multicam pattern just laying down on the ground for?
Hits it with the squad vehicle. It's like, oh well, that was a soldier, whatever. But I mean, that is probably the most effective use of it. I can't think of anything else I've actually done that's that extreme.
I mean, in most scenarios where you're going to be needing camo, as far as like any of us, it's going to be, you're wearing jeans, hoodie, maybe boots, sneakers, whatever you usually wear.
It also very much depends. Like here's the one thing that I agree and disagree with Lucas on, because Lucas is basically like all fighting is going to take place in urban environments and stuff. And
We are referencing Lucas from T-Rex Arms, by the way.
And he says like the best stuff. He doesn't like multicam gear, which I mean that's fine. And honestly, I'm kind of leaning just for our environment. Multicam I think does well in like the Midwest area. Maybe I wouldn't even say it does super well in like the desert and stuff. But I definitely think like Midwest plains type areas it does very well. I think here in this general area, I would say like M81 BDU type like woodland-esque camo does a lot better.
Well, BDU blends in really well.
Yeah, it's a great camouflage. I'm a big fan of it. But for me, one of my like instances of camouflage is whenever I was hunting, because you're sitting up laying in a tree stand or whatever it is, and you've got these animals that otherwise would never walk up to you. In fact, if they saw you or caught as much as caught your scent, they would be like zoomy boy out of there. They're running, they're making noise, whatever it is. And you've got animals, those exact same animals, right next to you.
Again, it's just blending in.
Yeah, it's a super cool experience, and it's something like just that I think speaks volumes, because honestly, I think animals are much more perceptive than humans, because I think humans have lost a lot of their survival instincts and stuff like that.
And plus, in general, I think for the most part, humans have more going on in their head.
Yeah.
I think like we have a lot. We have complex thoughts. Like if you're sitting out there in the woods, you're thinking about other stuff other than just, oh, I'm sitting in the woods. Yeah. They have just pure instinct survival for the most part. You know, it's something that, like you said, I think that we don't have that because we have other things to focus on.
Yeah. Right. Well, we've been allowed other things.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because we've kind of negated the need to have that kind
That's
of.
called privilege.
We've unfortunately rip.
Yeah, that's interesting to think of. I thought of one more example. The shrub gun.
The shrub gun.
Do you remember the shrub gun?
No,
I don't.
I actually don't.
You don't know what I'm talking about? Oh man, I'll get this post show. It's a camouflaged. It's airsoft. The Igor. The ASVAL.
Oh.
The shrub gun. Do you not remember that?
I've not. I only think I ever saw the ASVAL once.
Oh man, I'll get it for your post show. I think I still have it. You understand the camouflage for it. If you put it down on the ground, especially like fall, can't see it. It like seriously blends in.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but
it breaks up the silhouette. That's another thing. You can like how we talked about like how you act can be camouflage. Oh, you can also camouflage your other equipment. Like it's not just your body.
It was like. I get that there's like cool camouflage that you can paint and stuff. You wait until you see this, you understand. I mean, it is like over the top. Cool, like
very good.
Yeah, we'll check it out here.
Would you consider like concealed carrying camouflage, like camouflaging your handgun?
Yeah, I mean you're essentially EDC. You're camouflaging yourself, and because that's concealment. Your firearm should be completely concealed in a concealed carry.
I would consider concealment a form of camouflage.
Yeah.
Not directly, because like normally you think of camouflage as like a pattern.
Right. And that was what we were shooting for.
I personally would view concealment as a method of camouflage because you are camouflaging whatever that is with another object, not just a pattern.
Right.
And I mean, we also can dive into the difference between cover and concealment. Like cover is a wall and concealment is something that isn't going to stop bullets.
Did that guy just hide behind a cardboard box?
That's concealment. He's concealed behind.
He's not behind the box. He's in the box.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, we can do an episode all on that.
Yeah,
but I think we're good.
Yeah, I think
you don't have any.
You have any extreme
any cool events that you've utilized camouflage?
I mean, not really. No.
Privileged.
What about those? How
about
ever
been in the woods?
You're
privileged.
What about those camos you unlocked in Warzone?
All right, I mean, I can. Okay, all right. I can think back to some times when we were in.
There we go.
Back in the high school days where we played airsoft, utilizing camouflage.
We're not. Just to be clear, we're not talking crap on airsoft. We like airsoft. We're gonna get into that later.
Right.
But, yes.
There's a difference between cringy airsoft and effective airsoft.
Yes.
No,
go ahead.
I can definitely think of a few times where actually it was my fucking on tour that walked literally 2 feet in front of me as I was just laying prone in the fucking leaves in the woods on our property here. He just walked right by me, and I just stood up and just because we have a rule to not shoot close range, like right up against each other.
I don't recall this rule. I don't play by these rules.
Some of us did. Some of us did. But I got up and I put
that's the cringy part of airsoft.
I put my barrel into his back and I just said bang bang because I didn't want to pull the trigger out on him that close.
That's why no one will remember your name.
Oh no. Oh boy.
That's why. Yeah. Hey, I mean that's another great example of
it's a super simple example.
Yeah. Otherwise, if he was wearing a bright orange coat, he would have saw him. or just doing jumping jacks or
Was
whatever
there
it
any
is.
people around here?
His
Neon.
perception, he rolled like a -2 on perception. Couldn't see.
I didn't even know you had perception.
It's
Rip
just
onto her.
it's just missing off the page. It's like, oh well, you can.
Rippy dip.
I lack eyes.
But yeah, I think that would be
We're Gucci gang.
good for the camouflage discussion. If you guys have any cool camouflage stories, or like maybe some camouflage you've tried out and have had a good time with them, or whatever it is, let us know. What's your EDC camouflage? How do you walk around? What's your normal? This can be like a fashion post. Like what kind of clothes do you like to wear?
Yeah, I mean, usually whenever I'm concealed carrying within our friend group, like everyone knows, like if I'm wearing a button down, I'm probably concealed carrying.
That's probably not a good thing to have. 'Cause now if somebody sees you in public, they're gonna see you're wearing a button down. They're gonna be like, he has a gun.
Oh, see, like I wear a hoodie and
I just wear whatever I want.
Yeah, it's really whatever.
I like dressing even dressier, as dressy as I can, while still carrying a firearm.
Now, what if you had a tux and you pulled like a chrome PPK out?
I mean, that's just that's just a cherry on top.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But you can-
please join in on our Discord discussion.
I was
about
just gonna
this,
say you can
because-
tell us about your camouflage in our Discord.
I mean, not only do we want to like talk about our cute outfits that we wear every day, but we'd also like to see how you conceal your EDCs, because it could add to our little wardrobes and we can talk fashion together.
The discussion on Discord is growing.
It is.
It
We
has
have
been growing.
It has
We've
been
had some
growing.
people in there having some discussion, asking questions. I very much appreciate it. It's a good time. Same thing as last time. You can check out all of our socials, stuff like that. We're posting a lot more on Instagram now. The one thing that we did want to bring up is for right now, we're gonna unlist some of our videos just because we aren't happy with them. If we're gonna make videos, we want them to be much more watchable and much more fun to watch. Like, we want you to want to watch them. We want them to be to give meaningful content, and I think the content that we present is meaningful, but we also want to present it in a way that
You have to present it in a meaningful way.
yeah, like in a way that's gonna keep you retained. Like, do you want to just listen to me talking in a monotone voice for 30 minutes talking about the wonders of flint glocks? Maybe I would, but
Yeah, for that one, I would.
but for the most part, we want to make the quality as good as we can for the video. So until we get some practice and do stuff like that, we're gonna unlist those for now.
And I mean, for the time being, as those will be unlisted publicly, if you'd like to join us in our Discord and hear a little bit more about what those videos might be like, we can definitely go into discussion.
Or
about
maybe you
those.
have some tips for us.
Yeah, that would even be more
great.
important.
We could do closed screenings of that stuff on Discord.
That's what
So
I
it
was kind of
gives,
getting
gives
at.
you a perk of being in the Discord.
Yeah, actually, yeah, we definitely could do stuff like that. And criticism is always appreciated unless it's non-constructive, because there were definitely some salty comments. But
Besides the
Some of
point,
those were pretty funny though.
they were
pretty
kind of funny. It's okay.
I don't know.
Guys, we got our first hate comment. We should frame
yeah,
it.
Honestly,
Screenshot it, print it out.
I'll
have
bring it
framed.
up. I want to bring it up because just to bring light to this. So with the platform growing, obviously it's going to be available to the wider market, which means a lot of people that may not be or may not see the point of the content that we're trying to make.
Keyboard warriors.
Yeah, keyboard warriors or whatever. One of them had brought up that Slapshot is not going to, in quote, kill anybody. And I was thinking about that comment and just how, like, who is he to say that? Do we know? He has no credibility.
He doesn't know that Slapshot spent 25 years as a SOG.
But regardless, it's just a lot of people say, like, it's the same thing as Lucas, really, because a lot of people will talk crap on Lucas, and he's like, oh, you're just a lengthy kid and whatever. And honestly, if you just saw a picture of Lucas' face without knowing any other context, would you say that guy is, like...
He could probably kill you faster than you could even think about it.
Yeah.
Watch me do my...
And I'm not saying... by no means am I saying we're on that kind of level. But what I'm saying is, with proper training, with proper ideology and maintaining the right mindset, anyone is capable of anything. And we're not saying, like, oh, you're capable of killing someone. No, the point of the stuff that we are talking about is to protect yourself, to protect others, and to protect the ideas that we all hold very close.
I do not ever hope I actually have to kill somebody.
Yeah,
I
that's
don't-
like
That's not
absolute-
the idea here.
That's like the last resort.
Exactly. But, you know, we are trying to prepare ourselves for the worst. And whenever the worst is to come, we're ready for it.
Or more ready than we would have been prior.
Exactly. And the point of all of this, that what we're doing, what we're talking about, is to practice and prepare ourselves for it and share.
And to
what
share
we've
that, what we've found and what the knowledge that we have and stuff like that. Because we want...
And we're not experts by any means, but we want people to hear what we're talking about, and maybe someone who is more of an expert to join in and talk about it with us, and, you know, create this community that we can all rely on each other and learn from.
Something that, I mean, we're going a little long-winded on the outro, but that
It's
I think
okay.
this is important. So back early 2000s, the prepper community was, I would say, very, like, individualistic, where they were only worried about themselves or just their family or whatever. And I think nowadays we're seeing, like, an evolution of that, where we're not talking about individual stuff, we're talking about team stuff, because it's better. I mean, being alone in the woods, or having, like we've said before, having other people, it's gonna make life easier.
Yeah,
You're gonna
you
be
know?
able to do more with more people, and that's the thing. You want to build this community, this strong group of people that can take on these hard challenges and bounce off of them, rather than just have one failure and then the whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty well said, really.
Again, dragged on the outro a little bit, but, you know, it's something that needed to be said. So, with that,
Thank you for watching.
thank you, or listening.
Oh yeah, we're
and-
not. I mean, if you're watching the little cool
Blip thing on
blippy
YouTube.
thing on YouTube,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
If you listen to us on YouTube, there you go. If you listen to us on all major podcast platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor FM, there are some other platforms that we're on as well. We're also on our website, so if you happen to go to our website, www.wevaliantfew.com, you can listen to us straight from our website if you're at work.
Or you can SEO. So you could just literally type in We Valiant Few and it comes up.
That's right. Besides that, please join us in our Discord conversation, discord.wevaliantfew.com. Any other links?
I mean,
Is that good?
everything's on the website.
Yeah, it's
so
on the website. It's in the description.
You know
yeah.
where to find us.
easy.
Until then, thank
see
you
you-
for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Yeet.